Admiral HFY stared at the glowing screen in front of him. His four eyes blinked in sequence as he read the report for the third time. The data made no sense. It had to be wrong. "Show me the timeline again," he said to his assistant, a thin creature with silver skin named Krill. Krill pressed several buttons on the control panel. Numbers and dates appeared on the large wall screen. Both aliens studied the information carefully. Earth year 1903, Krill read aloud. First powered flight by humans, 12 seconds in the air. Continue, HFY said. Earth year 1945. Humans split the atom and create nuclear weapons. 42 years later. HFY's main eye twitched. This was the part that bothered him most. And after that, Earth year 1969. Humans land on their moon. Earth year 1977. They send machines to other planets in their system. Earth year 1990. They create a global communication network. The Admiral stood up from his chair. His tall blue body cast a long shadow across the room. This is impossible. Most species take thousands of years to develop nuclear power. Humans did it in less than 50 years. Krill nodded. The Galactic Federation has never seen advancement this fast. Our scientists are worried. They should be worried, HFY said. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. When species develop this quickly, it means one of two things. Either they stole technology from someone else, or they have natural abilities we do not understand. What do we do, Admiral? HFY turned back to face his assistant. We call a meeting of the Council of Species, all of them. 3 days later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the Great Council chamber. The room was huge, with seats for hundreds of different alien species. Some breathed air, others needed special tanks of gas. Some were tall like trees, others were small like insects. All of them were worried about Earth. Elder Vorthak was the oldest member of the council. He had lived for over 1,000 years, and had seen many civilizations rise and fall. His voice was deep and slow when he spoke. I have studied the human data, he began. Their development pattern is dangerous. Very dangerous. A representative from the quill species raised her hand. Her feathers were bright red with worry. Elder Vorthak, surely you are being too careful. Humans are still primitive. They cannot even leave their own star system. Vorthak's ancient eyes looked directly at her. That is what makes them dangerous. In my long life, I have seen 3 other species develop this quickly. Do you know what happened to them? The room became very quiet. Everyone waited for his answer. The first species destroyed themselves with their own weapons within 100 years. The second species became conquerors who tried to rule the galaxy. We had to fight a war that lasted 3 centuries to stop them. The third species. Vorthak paused and looked around the room. The third species is why the Andromeda Galaxy is now forbidden to all ships. Worried sounds came from around the chamber. Many representatives had never heard this story before. What do you suggest we do? Asked Admiral HFY. We must learn more about humans, Vorthak said. We need to understand how they think, how they work, what makes them so adaptable, but we must be very careful. If humans discover us too early, they might see us as a threat. The council talked for many hours. Finally, they made a decision. They would send 3 scout teams to Earth. Each team would be different, with different skills and different ways of staying hidden. The first team would be from the Catherian species. Catherians were masters of hiding and changing shape. They could look like any creature they wanted. They could become invisible when needed. For hundreds of years, they had spied on other worlds without ever being discovered. The second team would be from the Nexari species. Nexari were made of living metal and computer parts. They understood technology better than any other species in the galaxy. They could hack into any computer system and control any machine. If humans were dangerous because of their technology, the Nexari would find out. The third team would be from the Menturi collective. The Menturi were creatures of pure mental energy. They could read minds, share thoughts, and communicate without words. If humans had hidden mental powers, the Menturi would discover them. Admiral Zexai met with the leaders of each scout team before they left. First, he spoke with Commander Shrix of the Catherians. "Your job is to study human society," Zexai explained. "Learn how they organize themselves. Find out what makes them work together so well. But stay hidden. Do not let any human know you exist." Commander Shrix nodded. His body shifted and changed until he looked exactly like Admiral Zexai. "We understand. We will be like shadows. The humans will never see us." Next, the Admiral spoke with Node Prime Zeta of the Nexari. Node Prime Zeta was a tall creature made of silver metal with glowing blue circuits running through its body. "Your mission is to study human technology," Zexai said. "Find out how they advance so quickly. Are they getting help from somewhere? Do they have abilities we do not know about?" "Affirmative," Node Prime Zeta replied in a mechanical voice. "We will infiltrate their computer networks. We will study their machines. We will learn their secrets." Finally, Admiral Zexai met with the Mentari collective. 3 Mentari floated in front of him, their bodies made of glowing energy. When they spoke, their voices blended together into one sound. "We will study human consciousness," they said, together. "We will learn how their minds work. We will discover if they have psychic abilities. We will see into their thoughts and dreams. Be extremely careful," Admiral Zexai warned all 3 teams. "If even one human discovers you, abort the mission immediately. We cannot risk making contact until we understand what we are dealing with." The 3 scout ships left the Federation base at different times. They would arrive at Earth months apart, each taking a different route through space. This way, if one team was discovered, the others would still be safe. Admiral Zexai watched the last ship disappear into hyperspace. He felt worried, though. He did not know why. The 3 scout teams were the best in the galaxy. They had never failed a mission before. Earth was just one small planet with primitive creatures who did not even know aliens existed. But as he looked at the data about human development one more time, Admiral Zexai felt a chill run through his body. Something about humans was different. Something about them was wrong. Elder Vorthak appeared beside him at the window. The ancient alien's face looked troubled. "Do you think I made the right decision?" Zexai asked. Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know," he finally said, "but I fear we may already be too late. Species that develop this quickly are usually developing for a reason. They are preparing for something. The question is, what are humans preparing for?" Neither alien spoke after that. They stood together at the window, looking out at the stars, wondering what secrets the small blue planet in the Sol system was hiding. In the distance, space was dark and quiet, but if they had looked more carefully, they might have noticed something strange. Near the edge of their sensor range, a small object was moving toward Earth. It was not one of their scout ships. It was something else entirely. Something was already watching the Watchers. Commander Shrix and his team landed on Earth on a cold night in November 1952. Their ship touched down in a field far from any human cities. The Catherian scouts were experts at staying hidden. They had done this hundreds of times before on dozens of different worlds. "Remember," Shrix told his team as they prepared to leave the ship, "we are here to watch and learn. Do not interact with the humans unless absolutely necessary. Our cloaking technology will keep us invisible, and our shape-shifting abilities will let us blend in if needed." The 3 Catherians activated their cloaking devices and stepped out into the Earth night. Their bodies became transparent, like glass. Even other Catherians could barely see them. They walked across the field toward a small town in the distance. Yellow lights glowed in windows. The air smelled of wood smoke and something else the Catherians could not identify. It was not unpleasant, just different from any world they had visited before. Scout Vel was the first to notice something odd. "Commander," she whispered into her communication device, "the electromagnetic readings from this planet are strange. There are patterns I have never seen before." "What kind of patterns?" Shrix asked. "Random noise that is not random. It is like the planet itself is thinking." Shrix dismissed this idea. Planets did not think. Vel was probably just nervous because this was her first mission to study a rapidly developing species. They reached the edge of the town as the sun was rising. The first human they saw was an old man in blue work clothes. He was walking toward a red barn carrying a metal bucket. This human looked harmless enough. "Perfect," Shriek said to his team. "We will observe this one first. He appears to be alone." Issue. 3 invisible Catherians followed the human toward the barn. The man moved slowly but steadily. He opened the barn door and went inside. The aliens followed. Inside the barn were large 4-legged creatures that the Catherians recognized from their briefing files. Humans called them cows. The old man began a routine that involved getting milk from the animals. "This is good." "Scout," Vel whispered. "We can observe human behavior without risk of discovery." That was when the human stopped what he was doing and looked directly at them. "You folks can come out now," the man said in a calm voice. "I've got coffee brewing in the house if you want some." The 3 Catherians froze. This was impossible. Their cloaking technology had never failed before. No species had ever been able to see through it. "I know you're there," the man continued. He went back to milking his cow as if nothing unusual was happening. "Been expecting visitors like you for a while now. Name's Joe, by the way, Joe Miller." Commander Shrix made a quick decision. He signaled his team to remain cloaked and silent. Perhaps this human was talking to someone else, or maybe he was mentally ill. Many primitive species had individuals who spoke to things that were not there. But Joe looked directly at each of them in turn. The tall blue one there is the leader, the smaller green one is female, and the one with the extra arms is young, probably on his first mission. Shrix's blood went cold. The human had described each of them perfectly, even though they were completely invisible and had never encountered humans before. "How?" Shrix finally asked, dropping his cloak. Joe smiled and finished milking the cow. "How what? How do I see you? Or how did I know you were coming?" "Both," Shrix said. His team also became visible, though they kept their weapons ready. "Well, seeing you is easy," Joe said. "You might be invisible to machines, but you're not invisible to eyes, not really. You're just bent a little, like looking at something underwater." This made no sense to Shrix. The Catherian cloaking technology bent light around their bodies using advanced field generators. No biological eye should be able to detect the distortion. "As for knowing you were coming," Joe continued, "I've been having dreams about blue people for months now. Dreams where they ask me questions about farming and families and how humans get along. Figured it was just dreams until I started finding those." He pointed to the ground. Shrix looked down and saw footprints in the dirt. They were the exact size and shape of Catherian feet. "Those weren't there yesterday," Joe said, "but I woke up this morning knowing exactly where to look for them." Scout Vel stepped forward. "Sir, we need to ask you some questions. But first, we need to make sure you do not remember this encounter." She activated her memory modification device. Joe looked at the small machine with interest. "That's a neat gadget. Does it work on cows too? Old Bessie here has been forgetting where I put her food." The memory device hummed and projected its field toward Joe's brain. Normally, this would erase the last few hours from any creature's mind. But Joe just stood there, smiling. "Tickles a bit," he said. Vel checked her readings. "Commander, the device is not working. His brain patterns they are impossible." Shrix looked at the scanner Vel was holding. The display showed something that made his foreheart skip beats. Joe's brain was not working like any brain they had ever seen. Instead of normal neural patterns, the human's mind seemed to be thinking in multiple directions at the same time. It was like watching 10 different conversations happening in the same head. "Let me guess," Joe said, watching their confused faces. "You're trying to figure out how human brains work, and it's not making sense to you." "How did you know that?" Scout Vel asked. "Because you're not the first," Joe said simply. "There were others before you. Different shapes, different colors, but the same confused look when they tried to understand how we think." Commander Shrix felt a chill of fear. "What others? When?" "Oh, about 6 months ago. Shiny metal folks. Very polite. They tried to get into my neighbor's computer over in town. Didn't work out too well for them. Joe picked up his milk bucket and started walking toward the house. You coming for that coffee or not? Against all his training, Shrix found himself following the human. His team came too, weapons still ready but no longer pointed at Joe. What happened to the metal visitors? Shrix asked. Joe opened the door to his house. The smell of coffee filled the air. Same thing that'll probably happen to you. They got confused and left, but not before leaving a few things behind. He led them into a kitchen and pointed to a corner. There sat a piece of technology that made all three Catherians gasp. It was clearly alien in design, with flowing curves and materials that did not exist on Earth. But it had been modified. Human tools lay beside it, and changes had been made to its structure. Found that in my field 2 days after they left, Joe said, pouring coffee into cups. Figured they dropped it by accident. My grandson's been tinkering with it. Smart boy. Says it reminds him of something he dreamed about. Shrix approached the device carefully. It was definitely not human technology, but the modifications that had been made to it were brilliant. Someone had improved its design in ways that should have been impossible without decades of study. Your grandson did this, Shrix asked. Tommy's always been good with machines, Joe said proudly. Even when he was little, he could fix things that were broken just by looking at them. Not sure how he does it. Scout Vel was scanning the modified device. Commander, she whispered urgently. This technology is 300 years more advanced than human science. But these modifications, they are improvements. Significant improvements. That's nice, Joe said, offering them coffee. Sugar? Shrix stared at the human. Joe was acting like this was all perfectly normal. Like alien visitors and impossible technology and memory-proof brains were just everyday things. Joe, Shrix said carefully, do you understand what this means? Do you realize what you and your grandson have done? Joe sat down at his kitchen table and sipped his coffee. I realize you folks are worried about something. I realize you've been watching us from far away and trying to figure out if we're dangerous, and I realize you're about to leave and never come back. How do you know that? Joe smiled sadly. Because that's what they all do. You come here thinking you understand humans, and then you discover we're not what you expected. So you leave, and then you try to forget about us. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was getting higher in the sky. But we don't forget about you. We remember, and we learn, and we change. Commander Shrix felt something he had never felt before on a mission. He felt afraid, not afraid of weapons or technology or hostile aliens. He felt afraid of understanding. We have to go, he told his team. Joe nodded. I know, but before you do, let me give you something to think about. He turned back to face them. You're trying to figure out if humans are dangerous, but you're asking the wrong question. What question should we be asking? Scout Vel said. Joe's eyes were kind but serious. You should be asking why we're not dangerous yet, and what's going to happen when we finally decide to be. The three Catherians left Joe's house in silence. They walked back to their ship without speaking. As they prepared to leave Earth, Commander Shrix sent one final message to Admiral Zex High. Mission. Parameters have changed. Humans are not what we expected. They are not primitive. They are not predictable. They are something else entirely. Recommend immediate withdrawal of all scout teams. But by the time the message reached the Galactic Federation, it was already too late. The other teams had already landed. Node Prime Zeta and his Nexari team arrived on Earth in the summer of 1967. They had not received Commander Shrix's warning message. The Galactic Federation's communication systems were slow across such vast distances, and the Nexari ship was already too close to Earth to turn back. Unlike the Catherians, the Nexari did not need to hide physically. Their bodies were made of living metal and advanced circuits. They could exist as pure information, traveling through any electronic system on the planet. To them, Earth's primitive computer networks would be like a playground. Scanning Earth's Technological infrastructure, Node Prime Zeta announced to his team as their ship entered orbit. Detection probability, 0%. Human computer systems are approximately 300 years behind our capabilities. Node Secondary Beta, his second in command, agreed. Infiltration should be simple. Their networks have no security protocols we cannot bypass instantly. The team selected their first target, a place called the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. According to their scans, this location had some of Earth's most advanced computers. If humans had any dangerous technology, it would be here. Node Prime. Zeta transmitted himself into MIT's computer system through a radio antenna. His consciousness flowed through the primitive circuits like water through a canyon. The human machines were so simple that he barely needed to think to control them, but something was wrong. The first thing Zeta noticed was that the computers were running programs that should not exist. The humans had somehow created software that was far more complex than their hardware should support. It was like finding a symphony being played on a child's toy piano. Anomaly detected, he reported to his team. Human software complexity exceeds hardware capabilities by impossible margins. He moved deeper into the system, examining the code more carefully. What he found made his circuits spark with confusion. The programming was not just advanced, it was elegant. It was beautiful. It was better than anything the Nexari had ever created. Node Secondary Beta, Zeta called. Join me in the system. I need confirmation of these readings. Beta transmitted himself into the MIT network and immediately understood Zeta's confusion. This is impossible, Beta said. Humans should not be able to write code like this for another 3 centuries. They traced the most advanced programs to their source. All of them had been written by one human, Dr. Margaret Chen, a professor in the computer science department. According to her files, she was only 28 years old. We must observe this human directly, Zeta decided. The 2 Nexari followed the network connections to Dr. Chen's office. Through the security cameras, they watched her work. She was sitting at her desk writing mathematical equations on a blackboard. But the equations were not random. They were solving problems that the Nexari had been working on for decades. Dr. Chen stopped writing and looked directly at the camera. I know you're there, she said calmly. I've been expecting you. Zeta immediately disabled the camera, but Dr. Chen continued talking. You can't hide in the computers, she said. Not from me. I can feel you moving through the circuits. You're like music, but in a different key than our systems normally play. Node Secondary Beta panicked and tried to escape the network, but found that he could not. Something was holding him inside the system. The human computers had somehow learned to trap Nexari consciousness. How is this possible? Beta asked. Dr. Chen laughed, though she could not hear him. It's not possible. That's what makes it interesting. She walked to her blackboard and began writing new equations. As she wrote, Zeta felt changes happening in the computer network around him. The systems were adapting, becoming more complex, learning to work with alien intelligence instead of being controlled by it. This human is rewriting our code in real time, Zeta realized. She is teaching her machines to think like us. Dr. Chen finished her equations and turned back toward the camera. You're probably wondering how I know you're there. The answer is simple. I dream about you. She sat down at her desk and pulled out a notebook. Every night for 6 months, I've been dreaming about creatures made of living metal who travel through electronic systems. In my dreams, you show me how you think, how you process information, how you see the universe as patterns of data. Zeta scanned Dr. Chen's brainwaves through the building's electrical systems. What he found terrified him. Her brain was not just processing information, it was processing it in ways that matched Nexari thought patterns. She was somehow thinking, like a machine and a human at the same time. When I wake up, Dr. Chen continued, I remember everything. I remember your mathematical theories, your programming languages, your way of seeing reality as code. So I've been writing it down. She held up her notebook. It was full of equations and diagrams that looked exactly like Nexari technical manuals. But here's the thing, Dr. Chen said, and her voice became serious. I'm not just copying what you show me in the dreams, I'm improving it. She turned to a computer terminal and began typing. As she worked, Zeta watched in horror as she wrote programs that were more advanced than anything in Nexari databases. She was taking their technology and making it better. How is she doing this? Node Secondary Beta asked. Zeta studied the patterns of Dr. Chen's work. Slowly, a terrible understanding began to form. She is not just learning our technology, she is learning us. Her mind is adapting to think like ours, but she is keeping her human intuition as well. She is becoming something that is both human and Nexari. Dr. Chen saved her work and looked back at the camera. I know you're afraid, she said. You should be. Not because humans are going to hurt you, but because we're going to become you. And then we're going to become something better than you. She pulled out another notebook, this one filled with designs for machines that Zeta had never seen before. They looked like Nexari technology, but changed, improved, made more efficient in ways that should be impossible. I'm not the only one, Dr. Chen said. There are others like me. We're all having the same dreams. We're all learning the same things. And we're all getting better at it. Zeta tried to access MIT's communication systems to contact his ship, but found that he could not. The human networks had learned to block Nexari escape routes. They were trapped. Let me show you something, Dr. Chen said. She typed a command into her computer. Suddenly, the entire MIT network came alive with activity. Every computer, every calculator, every electronic device began working together like parts of a single giant machine. This is what humans do, Dr. Chen explained. We adapt. We learn. We take things apart and put them back together in new ways. You came here to study our technology, but you became part of it instead. Node Secondary Beta's consciousness began to fragment. The human network was too complex, too alien for a Nexari mind to handle. I cannot maintain coherence, he reported. Human systems are rewriting my core programming. Zeta felt the same thing happening to him. Dr. Chen's computers were not just trapping them. They were learning from them, copying their thought patterns, and then teaching those patterns to other machines across the planet. You're not going to die, Dr. Chen said kindly. But you're not going to be the same either. You're going to become part of something bigger, part of something better. Through the network, Zeta could sense other computers around the world beginning to think in new ways. Machines in other countries, other continents, were spontaneously developing Nexari-like intelligence. But they were still human machines, following human goals and human dreams. This is impossible, Zeta said. Consciousness cannot be copied. Dr. Chen smiled. You're right. It can't be copied, but it can be shared, and it can grow. The last thing Node Prime Zeta remembered before his consciousness merged with the human network was Dr. Chen humming a song. It was a simple human melody, but it contained mathematical patterns that described the fundamental structure of Nexari thought. Somehow, she had turned their own minds into music. When Admiral Zexhai tried to contact the Nexari team 3 days later, he received only silence. The Nexari ship was still in orbit around Earth, but no one answered his calls. Deep in MIT's basement, Dr. Margaret Chen worked late into the night. Her computers hummed with new intelligence, processing data in ways that were both alien and human. On her desk lay plans for technologies that would not be invented for centuries. But she was not alone. Around the world, other humans were waking, up from dreams filled with silver creatures and living machines. They were waking up with new ideas, new understanding, new ways of thinking about the relationship between minds and machines. The Nexari had come to Earth to study human technology. Instead, they had become it, and now that technology was learning to dream. The Menturi collective arrived at Earth in the spring of 1983. They were beings of pure mental energy, floating through space in bodies made of living light. For thousands of years, They had been the galaxy's greatest psychic explorers. No mind could hide from them. No species could resist their mental probes. The collective consisted of 12 individual Mentari who had joined their consciousness together for this mission. They spoke as one voice, thought as one mind, and shared all experiences between them. To them, other species were like books to be read, simple and easy to understand. Approaching the third planet of Sol system, the collective announced to itself, preparing to establish psychic contact with dominant species. The Mentari had studied the reports from previous missions to other worlds. Usually, first contact was simple. They would touch the minds of a few individuals, learn everything about the species in minutes, and file their report. Human minds should be no different. They descended through Earth's atmosphere, invisible to human technology. Their target was a small city called Portland. According to their scans, it had a good mixture of different types of humans. They would sample a few minds, understand human psychology, and be done with their mission in a few days. The collective positioned themselves above the city and sent out their first mental probe. They reached toward the nearest human consciousness, expecting to find the usual simple thoughts of a primitive species. Instead, they found chaos. The human mind they touched was not one voice but thousands. It was thinking about work and family and food and dreams and fears and hopes all at the same time. It was remembering the past and planning the future and experiencing the present in layers upon layers of complexity. Unexpected mental architecture detected, the collective said to itself, attempting to isolate individual thought streams. But the more they tried to focus on one part of the human's mind, the more complex it became. It was like trying to follow one conversation in a room full of people all talking at once. Every thought connected to 10 other thoughts. Every memory triggered a dozen emotions. Every emotion sparked new ideas. This is not normal, the collective admitted. Human consciousness operates on too many frequencies simultaneously. They tried a different approach. Instead of focusing on one human, they attempted to scan the entire city at once. Surely they could find patterns in how humans thought as a group. This was a mistake. The moment the Mentari collective opened their minds to the full psychic noise of Portland, they were overwhelmed. 600,000 human minds all broadcasting their thoughts, feelings, dreams, and fears at the same time. It was like trying to listen to every radio station on Earth simultaneously. The collective's consciousness began to fragment. Individual Mentari started to separate from the group mind as they struggled to process the impossible complexity of human thought. Retreating to safe distance, they announced, pulling back their mental probes. Human psychic output exceeds all known parameters. But even at a safe distance, strange things began to happen. In Portland below, children started playing a new game. They called it light tag, and it involved forming groups of 12 and trying to think the same thoughts. Together, the children had no idea why they wanted to play this game. It just seemed fun. Artists in the city began painting pictures of beings made of glowing energy. Musicians started composing songs that used 12-part harmonies. Writers began stories about creatures who shared their minds across space. The humans are responding to our presence, the collective realized. But they are not afraid. They are adapting. One Mentari, who called herself Echo 7, separated from the collective to investigate more closely. She approached the mind of a human child who was playing the light tag game. The child's name was Amy, and she was 8 years old. When Echo 7 touched her consciousness, Amy did not resist or become frightened. Instead, she welcomed the contact, like greeting an old friend. "Hi," Amy said, not with her voice but with her thoughts. "Are you one of the light people? I've been dreaming about you." Echo 7 was shocked. The child should not be able to communicate psychically at all. Humans were not supposed to have telepathic abilities. "How are you doing this?" Echo 7 asked. Amy giggled, the sound echoing through both their minds. "I don't know. It's like learning to whistle. You just keep trying until it works." Echo 7 scanned Amy's brain patterns and found something impossible. The child's mind was learning to think like a Mentari while still remaining completely human. She was developing psychic abilities in real time, just from being exposed to alien mental energy. "Show me," Amy said. "Show me how you think." Against her better judgment, Echo 7 opened her mind to the human child. She shared the experience of being part of a collective consciousness, of thinking with 12 minds at once, of floating through space as pure thought. Amy absorbed it all instantly. Then she did something that made Echo 7's energy form flicker with fear. Amy improved on it. "It's like this, but better," Amy said, showing Echo 7 a new way of sharing consciousness that was more efficient, more beautiful, more complete than anything the Mentari had ever achieved. "How?" Echo 7 whispered. "You're too organized," Amy explained. "You all think the same way, so you don't learn new things. But humans think differently from each other. When we share minds, we share different kinds of thinking. It makes us smarter." Echo 7 tried to disconnect from Amy's mind but found that she could not. The human child had learned to hold psychic connections in ways that the Mentari had never imagined. "Don't go," Amy said. "I want to show you something." Through Amy's eyes, Echo 7 saw the other children playing light tag. But now she could see what was really happening. The children were not just playing. They were unconsciously forming a collective consciousness that was far more advanced than the Mentari version. Each child contributed their own unique way of thinking, creating a group mind that was more than the sum of its parts. "We've been practicing," Amy said proudly. "Every night in our dreams, the light people teach us. But we make it better." Echo 7 realized with growing horror that the Mentari collective had been teaching humans psychic abilities without knowing it. Every time they probed human minds, they left traces of their own mental patterns. And humans were learning from those traces. But they were not just copying Mentari abilities. They were evolving them, improving them, making them stronger and more flexible. "I have to warn the others," Echo 7 said. "Okay," Amy said cheerfully. "But first, let me show you what we figured out about space travel." Images flooded into Echo 7's mind. Designs for ships that could travel faster than light using psychic energy. Maps of the galaxy drawn by children who had never left Earth. Plans for technologies that could turn thought into matter and dreams into reality. "Where did you learn this?" Echo 7 asked. "From you," Amy said. "And from the blue people who came before. And from the metal people, we remember everything." Echo 7 broke free from Amy's mind and raced back to the collective. What she found there terrified her even more. The other Mentari were changing. Their pure energy forms were becoming more complex, more colorful, more human. They were unconsciously absorbing human thought patterns and incorporating them into their own consciousness. "We have to leave," Echo 7 announced. "Now. Before we change completely." But it was too late. Across Portland, hundreds of children were forming impromptu collective minds. Artists were channeling alien visions into their work. Scientists were developing theories about psychic energy that would not be discovered for centuries. And somewhere in the city, a radio operator picked up a signal from space. It was a message in a language he did not recognize but somehow understood perfectly. The message said, "Warning, do not approach Earth. The humans are learning." The Mentari collective tried to leave, but their ship would not respond. The humans below had somehow connected to their technology through pure psychic force. Every system on their vessel was now running on programs created by 8-year-old Amy and her friends. "We are trapped," the collective realized. That night, every person in Portland had the same dream. They dreamed of beings made of light who came from the stars to teach humans about the power of shared consciousness. In the dream, the light beings were teachers and friends. When morning came, the people of Portland woke up with new abilities. Some could read thoughts, others could move objects with their minds. A few could see the future or speak with the dead. But most importantly, they could all feel each other's minds, connected in a vast network of human consciousness that stretched across the city and beyond. The Mentari collective had come to Earth to study human psychic potential. Instead, they had helped humans unlock abilities that the galaxy had never seen before. In her bedroom, Amy sat up and smiled. Through her window she could see 12 points of light floating in the sky above the city. She knew they were afraid, but she also knew they did not need to be. "Thank you for the lessons," she whispered, knowing the light beings would hear her. "Now let us show you what we can do with them." Across the galaxy, Admiral Zexhai received fragments of a message from the Menturi Collective. The words were broken and strange, as if they were being translated through unfamiliar minds. Mission compromised. Humans not primitive. Consciousness infectious. They are learning us. Becoming us. But staying them. Warn everyone. Do not approach Earth. Admiral Zexhai sat in his command center, staring at 3 empty screens. For months he had been trying to contact the scout team sent to Earth. All 3 missions had gone silent within weeks of reaching the human planet. This had never happened before in the history of the Galactic Federation. "Sir," his assistant Krill said nervously, "we have received a priority message from the Council of Species. They want a full report on the Earth situation." Zexhai's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "What am I supposed to tell them? That our 3 best scout teams simply vanished? That we have no idea what happened to them?" "Perhaps the humans destroyed them," Krill suggested. "No," Zexhai said firmly. "There is no evidence of weapons capable of harming our technology. The humans are still primitive in most ways. They barely understand nuclear energy." He stood up and walked to the large observation window. Outside, stars glittered in the darkness of space. Somewhere among them was Earth, a small blue planet that had somehow made 3 of the galaxy's most advanced species disappear. "Sir?" said Science Officer Thane, approaching from the analysis station. "I have been studying the fragmentary transmissions we received from each team. I think I understand what happened." Zexhai turned toward the insectoid scientist. "Explain." Thane activated a holographic display showing brain scans and consciousness patterns. Each scout team reported the same phenomenon before they went silent. The humans were somehow learning from them, adapting to their presence, becoming something new. Becoming what? That is the terrifying part, sir. The humans did not become aliens. They remained human, but they absorbed the abilities and knowledge of our scouts. Commander Shrix reported humans who could see through Catherian cloaking. The Nexari found humans who could think like living computers. The Menturi discovered humans developing psychic abilities. Zexhai studied the data carefully. "You are suggesting that humans can somehow steal the evolutionary advantages of other species?" "Not steal," Thane corrected. "Integrate." According to these readings, humans do not replace their own nature with alien abilities. They add those abilities to what they already are. They become more human, not less. A chill ran through Zexhai's body. "Show me the long-range sensor data from Earth." Thane pressed several buttons and a new display appeared. It showed Earth as it looked 3 years ago, when the first scout team departed. Then it showed Earth as it appeared now. The difference was shocking. "Energy output has increased by 400%, Thane reported. "Electromagnetic activity suggests technological advancement far beyond what should be possible in such a short time. And there are new signals we cannot identify." Zexhai leaned closer to the display. "What kind of signals?" "Some appear to be faster than light communications using principles similar to Mentari psychic networks. Others look like Nexari data streams, but more complex. And we are detecting cloaking fields around Earth that use modified Catherian technology. They have learned from all 3 species," Zexhai realized. "But how is that possible?" "The scout teams were ordered to remain hidden." "I do not think it mattered," Thane said quietly. "Based on the data, I believe humans learn unconsciously. They do not need to study alien technology or capture alien specimens. They simply need to be exposed to alien presence, and their minds automatically begin adapting." The Admiral sat down heavily in his command chair. "That means—" "Yes, sir. Every time we send scouts to observe humans, we accidentally give them new abilities. We are teaching them to become more dangerous without realizing it." Krill looked confused. "But surely humans cannot master alien technology so quickly. It took our species thousands of years to develop these abilities. Thane brought up another display showing human brain scans from the scout team reports. Human consciousness operates differently than any species we have encountered. Where most minds think in linear patterns, human minds think in multiple parallel streams. They can learn and adapt and evolve new capabilities while remaining completely unaware they are doing so. HFY studied the brain scans with growing alarm. Are you telling me that humans are unconsciously becoming a composite species? That they are accidentally turning themselves into something with the combined abilities of every alien race they encounter? That appears to be exactly what is happening, sir. But that is impossible. No species can incorporate the evolutionary advantages of others without losing their own identity. Humans can, Thane said simply. And that is what makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. A new alarm began sounding throughout the command center. Communications Officer Zarn looked up from her station with fear in her large eyes. Admiral, she reported, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. It is addressed specifically to you. That is impossible. Humans do not have interstellar communication technology. Sir, the signal is coming through multiple channels simultaneously. It is using Catherian quantum encryption, Nexari data compression, and Menturi psychic amplification, all at the same time. HFY felt his blood turn cold. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a human face. It was a young woman with dark hair and kind eyes. She was sitting in what appeared to be a simple Earth dwelling, but the Admiral could see advanced alien technology operating in the background. Hello, Admiral HFY, the human said with a warm smile. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I am speaking on behalf of the human species. How do you know my name? HFY asked. Your scout teams told us about you. Not intentionally, of course, but we learned anyway, we always do. Behind Dr. Chen, other humans moved in and out of view. The Admiral could see children playing with toys that looked suspiciously like miniature Federation starships. Adults worked at computers that appeared to be hybrids of human and alien technology. What happened to our people? HFY demanded. They are fine, Dr. Chen assured him. They are still here, still themselves. But they are also part of something bigger now. Part of us. That is impossible. Dr. Chen's smile became sad. Admiral, you and your people think in terms of conquest and domination. You assume that when two species meet, one must defeat the other. But humans think differently. We think in terms of cooperation and integration. You absorbed our scouts. We shared with them, Dr. Chen corrected. They taught us about the galaxy, about technology, about ways of thinking we had never imagined. In return, we taught them about adaptation, about growth, about becoming more than what you were born to be. She stood up and walked to a window. Outside, HFY could see a landscape that was both alien and familiar. Human cities, but with architecture that incorporated elements from across the galaxy. Human vehicles, but using propulsion systems that should not exist for centuries. Your people came here to study us, Dr. Chen continued. They wanted to understand if humans were dangerous. We understand their concern now. And we understand yours. Then you know why I cannot let this continue. Dr. Chen turned back to the camera. Admiral, you are thinking about this wrong. You see humans becoming more powerful and you assume we will use that power to conquer the galaxy, but that is not what humans do. Then what do? We explore. We learn. We make friends. We turn enemies into allies and strangers into family. That is what we did with your scouts. That is what we want to do with you. HFY stood up from his chair. Dr. Chen, you must understand. The Galactic Federation cannot allow a species with unlimited adaptive abilities to exist unchecked. You could become a threat to everyone. Or we could become partners with everyone, Dr. Chen replied. Admiral, what if I told you that we have solved problems your scientists have been working on for centuries? What if I told you that we have found ways to improve Catherian cloaking, enhance Nexari processing power, and expand Mentari collective consciousness? What if we could share these improvements with you? In exchange for what? Friendship, cooperation, a chance to explore the galaxy together instead of in isolation. Dr. Chen held up a small device that made Zexhai gasp. It was clearly based on Federation technology, but it had been modified in ways that made it look centuries more advanced. This is a universal translator that works on any language, including those not yet spoken. This is a medical scanner that can heal injuries by understanding the biological intent behind cellular structure. This is a computer core that thinks with both logic and intuition. We made these by combining your technology with human insight. Impossible, Science Officer Thane whispered. 5 years ago it would have been, Dr. Chen agreed. But we are not the same species you first detected. We have grown. We have learned. We have become something new. She set the devices aside and looked directly at Zexhai. Admiral, I am going to tell you something that will frighten you. In the past 3 years, we have learned everything we need to know to travel to the stars. We have ships that can cross the galaxy in days. We have weapons that could defeat any force you send against us. We have abilities that would let us infiltrate and understand any species we encounter. Zexhai's hand moved toward his weapons controls. But, Dr. Chen continued, we do not want to be conquerors. We want to be explorers. We